Hey there, Scorpio, and welcome to your 2020 Creativity Tarot reading. Wow, can't believe I'm saying that. 2019 flew by. My name is Kayleigh Jean, by the way, and welcome to my channel. I record these readings for artists, entrepreneurs, and anybody who is interested in their personal growth, spirituality, and self-expression in any way. So if any of those areas of life are interesting to you, go ahead and keep listening. I want to also say that these are just general readings, so it's normal if sometimes they don't resonate, or it's also possible that if you come back to this reading throughout 2020, you will start to see how this reading actually connects to your life in mysterious ways. So I invite you to kind of come back to this reading throughout the year. I always start my readings with a meditation to connect with your energy and the general energy that I'm feeling for you. And as I was tuning in for Scorpios, you can probably feel like and hear in my voice that it's a little it's powerful. Like the messages that were coming through for you, Scorpio. I almost feel like I'm gonna get emotional in this reading, but it's not that uncommon for me to cry with my Scorpios, so I feel like it's an amazing year. And what was coming through specifically as I was tuning in for you was I kind of had this impression of being on a roller coaster, and it's almost like you're kind of going up and up and up and up to that like really high point before it's gonna tip and go down. But I feel like 2019 has been a year in which you have maybe experienced an internal sense of like mounting internal pressure. And what was being shown to me in the meditation was kind of going, it's almost like you've been traveling in that little car in the roller coaster car, going up to the very, very top, and then it's like right as we go into 2020, it's like the drop happens. And there's this like intense, like powerful moment of like, whoa, I can't believe I'm doing this, you know? And it's this release. It's a release of pressure. It's a release of everything that has like been building up and becoming tense and hardened within you is like suddenly set free. And I don't know if this is for you like right around the beginning of the year. We're going to look at your cards as well, but it could be just a general feeling throughout 2020 of like expansiveness, but it's more than that. It's because there have been parts of you that have been compressed or repressed or pressurized, and then all of a sudden it's like all that steam, everything is just kind of being let out. Or, you know, if you're taking the roller coaster journey with me like I was in the meditation, it's like you're like going down, and there's like fear, there's adrenaline, there's excitement, and there's a moment of like, I can't believe I'm doing this, and there's also a moment of, wow, this is a lot of fucking fun. And then there's also a moment of, this is easier than I thought it was gonna be. I can handle this. And then there's a moment of just soaring. So I don't know if you've ever had that experience, Scorpio, maybe not necessarily with a roller coaster, but anything that sort of brought up a lot of fears in you that you were about to do, and then all of a sudden it's like you've been building it up in your mind and then you're doing it, and there's this massive release of maybe tension or anxiety or just steam that you've built up. So I feel like in 2020, the question that I want to ask you, Scorpio, is what do you really feel? What do you really want? Because you're gonna see like a massive, you're basically hitting the release valve in your life in 2020, and you can use all of this new energy that's like freed up within you. You can use that to your advantage, and you're gonna have a lot more mobility as well. And I feel like if there's any of you who have been struggling with like just situations that have been burdening you, or situations that you felt like you didn't have control over, I feel like 2020 you're gonna get a freedom. that you didn't have necessarily before. Like you're gonna get a freedom maybe from a situation that you like previously just had to accept. I feel like there will be freedom inherent in this year for you. So that is the dominant emotional kind of landscape that I was picking up for you, Scorpio. I hope that's helpful. Let's go ahead and take a look at your cards. Scorpio, Scorpio, Scorpio. Scorpio. There we go. I was just seeing like a mermaid, which is really unusual. I don't normally see mermaids, but I was seeing what kind of like a mermaid sitting on a rock. So there could be something having to do with, well, for me, the mermaid is a symbol of kind of a merging of our human consciousness and then also kind of like the unconscious, which is watery and, you know, fish-like. So the human head and torso, along with like the fish tail, is kind of a merging or an integration of unconscious contents. Scorpio, Scorpio, Scorpio. Here we go. So I wanted to get you some insight from the Animal Spirit Oracle. This creature is going to be kind of a symbolic, archetypal totem creature for you for the year. It could be bringing you additional guidance and support throughout the year. So, wow, you have wolf, Scorpio. So this is resonating to me a lot as a protector, but it also feels like an element or an aspect of you. The wolf as an archetype has a lot to do with leadership, and wolves are kind of similar to humans in a lot of ways in terms that they hunt in packs and they hunt during the daytime, which is very unique. And humans, you know, traditional humans or original humans were that way as well. So there's kind of like a kinship there. But there's something about like pack energy with the wolf and really finding your tribe and really feeling like you can be a strong member or a strong component of a group setting or something along those lines. You may be doing more kind of personal work, Scorpio, because as I'm looking at this, his eyes are really striking me, and it feels like the eyes are almost like you looking into the eyes of like someone that you're helping or someone that you're working with. So if you are a Scorpio who is looking to get into maybe like a caring or a healing profession, I think that 2020 is going to present you with some really great opportunities to do like face-to-face work or one-on-one work, or maybe even over Skype or something like that. I see you kind of having more one-on-one, like face-to-face time with clients or people that you interact with just during like the normal day-to-day stuff that you have to do for your career. Even if you work for a company, for example, you could be reassigned to a job that involves more one-on-one action, maybe human resource type things, or even breath work or teaching yoga or something where you're kind of, there's like a level of intimacy, I guess, that's increased. So whatever your current level of intimacy is in terms of like social interactions that you deal with for your work life, I feel like there's going to be more of that. And I actually feel like for you, Scorpio, it's going to probably happen in ways that you are feeling capable of taking that on, because a lot of Scorpios are very private people, and not very many Scorpios really want to you know, be in the spotlight necessarily. I mean, you don't really have a problem with doing that, but it's also something where you tend to thrive in specific situations. So whether that's like one-on-one or with like a small group, or even online, like online groups and forums, if that's kind of like what makes you feel comfortable, there could be more of that. But I feel like there's something about you almost counseling people more, or just working more face-to-face. That's really what I get from this wolf card. I also feel this as, like I said before, a protector for you, and it feels also like a creature that can help you set boundaries. So you have the wolf as sort of your ally spirit, spirit animal this year that's helping you kind of to be firm and to set clear boundaries and to protect those boundaries too, because once you set a boundary, you have to actually live with that boundary, and you have to actually enforce it. Otherwise, the other person is not going to really feel like they need to take whatever you say seriously. So I see that if any of you Scorpios have been like struggling at all with boundaries, I feel like this is going to be a year in which like enforcing the boundaries that you set is going to be a lot more natural to you. It's going to feel like you don't necessarily have to look up like ways to say no to someone, before you say no to someone. If you're like a really, really nice Scorpio, if you're like really agreeable, you're probably going to feel like it's more natural and fluid and easier for you to just be like, oh no, thanks, like I'm good on that, or I gotta check my calendar, So that's kind of what I'm seeing. Let's take a look at your tarot cards to get some more insight. So we have the 10 of Swords in January. Wow. Followed by the High Priest. We've got the Queen of Swords and Karma in April. We've got 5 of Wands in May. We've got Page of Wands in June. 9 of Wands in July. The High Priestess in August. September, we have the 8 of Cups. We have the Sun in October, beautiful. We have the Shadow Side in November, and we have the Ace of Cups as December, sort of how you close the year. So I want to talk about the energies that we see in the beginning of the year, because these also kind of tend for me to focus not only on the first couple months, but also as like a theme for the year. And the 10 of Swords is coming up with the High Priest. So when I see the 10 of Swords, I always look for the cards surrounding it so I can get more insight into like what is actually ending here, because any 10 card can represent a resolution or an ending, but really what is going to be ended or what is going to be transitioned is kind of shown by the surrounding cards. And here we have the 10 of Swords above the 5 of Wands and next to the High Priest. So I feel like for some of you, I don't know if you've been in any like environments that are a little contentious for whatever reason, but with the 5 of Wands, kind of underneath the 10 of Swords, it makes me feel like, and also the High Priest, it makes me feel like there could be an environment in your life where there's like maybe a level of peers that are all sort of on the same kind of level, like maybe students or whatever. There's something about that, if that has been maybe students or other fellow students or work colleagues, it's like there's some kind of contentiousness in that environment, or there's like a competitiveness, like someone might be trying to compete with you, for example, or if there's some kind of energy that feels a little bit out of balance. I feel that what is going on here is actually that you are kind of leveling up in such a way in your life where you're kind of putting that behind you, but that may involve really closing a door in your life. Like that might involve something with the 10 of Swords where I can either hear you saying, this is the last straw for me, right as you go into the year, or you are just basically, as you cross over into the new year, you are serious. I mean, this is a serious card. It's like you're dead serious about making some kind of change. And so you're saying, once I go through this door and shut it behind me, I'm never opening it again. And actually, that's something that Scorpios are relatively really good at, more so than any other sign. You are the type of sign that while you can, with the fixed energy, you can really get stuck on things, and you can really be kind of trying to figure something out that's like a negative situation. And if you're really habituated to it, you can stick to it way too long. But the key is, once you realize that it's really not good for you anymore, it's gone. Once you actually accept within yourself and you make that inner decision, you're never, ever going to subject yourself to that situation again. So that's one of the benefits of being a Scorpio, is that, once you get to that point, it's like you're not going to allow yourself to dither too long in situations that are really not healthy. You're very attuned to it in that way. And there may have been some kind of purpose for this because you have the High Priest card next to it. So it could be like something that you are learning about, or something that you feel would advance you in life, or maybe it's even with a spiritual teacher or a friend or a mentor or a coach or something. Maybe that type of person is either helping you through this ending, or like you're letting go of a teacher of some kind in your life in the beginning of 2020. But it's not like that action on your part, if that's what's happening, that's a hugely symbolic action on your part, because it is about kind of like on the mythic hero's journey, there's a part of the hero's journey that is about relinquishing the mentor. So often that's why, for example, that's why Dumbledore dies in Harry Potter, because you have to let go of the mentor at some point on the hero's journey. So there could be some element of that for some of you, of kind of letting go of a mentor or somebody who has helped you in the past, and you're like, okay, you know what, they've taken me this far, now I need to go the rest on my own, or something along those lines. I also just feel this sense, and it's interesting because, the way that most decks illustrate the Ten of Swords is highly way too negative, in my opinion. I feel like the 10 of air doesn't necessarily have to be shown as like a dramatic scene. It also shows the culmination of a particular way of thinking, because the air suit is, the sword suit is a suit of the mind. So when we carry the mind to its limit, then we get something else. Like when we carry the mind to, or a particular thought process or pattern to its completion, we realize the insufficiencies of that belief system or of that way of thinking, and then we are liberated from it. So it's also a freedom. It's a freedom from the ego self. It's a freedom from attachment. So I feel like detachment is probably like a really good word for Scorpios in 2020. I'm not saying that's going to be your only word, but I think that's going to be a big part of what helps you to be like cool, calm, calculating, and just able to enjoy your own peace of mind while acting on your best interest throughout the year. So the High Priest is coming up in February. I also see this as like its own message, not just relating to the Ten of Swords, so I want to cover that. This could be a great time for taking up a new area of study, or commencing work with a new mentor or a new teacher. Like I was saying before, February could be a time where you're more interested in learning and absorbing rather than putting out. For others of you, February, you could be teaching a class because the High Priest is coming up. Maybe it's both. Maybe you're taking a class and you're teaching one. But either way, the idea of teaching and transferring wisdom and really engaging with as well the sacred mysteries for those of you who are involved in the occult arts, that's going to be a really powerful time for attaining a greater understanding of those subjects. And I think that's going to be a really good use of your time, because we have the Queen of Swords following with the Karma card, which is just Judgment, in the Witch's Tarot. So here's where I was also seeing that sort of cool, calm, calculating aspect of Scorpio, which is such, I feel, one of the things about Scorpio that is like undervalued, I guess. Like people tend to think that the archetype of Scorpio is but they have their own connotations, right? Everybody does have their own meaning that they attach to things, but there's something about the symbolism of your traditional ruler Mars, and the Mars rulership it's the nighttime rulership. So there's something about like the person who sort of is up at night, like strategizing or thinking things through, so that during the daytime, when they go through their day, they're prepared. Or there's something about kind of having that awareness of the unconscious and that intuitive connection almost to the realm of the High Priestess, who did come up in your reading, by the way. It's like that part of you is very active. That unconscious yin, that dark, part of you. We all have it. It's just the passive principle, however you want to describe it. Scorpios have like a direct line to that aspect of their psyche, basically. So when we see the Queen of Swords with the Karma card and the way that this is showing up with the eclipse here, I feel like this is really about like having the wisdom to kind of see things that are going on outside of you for what they really are. Like it's having the ability to clearly perceive the events of your life and seeing kind of like the bigger picture, seeing how everything lines up. Because an eclipse is always the lining up of the earth, the sun, and the moon. So there's something here about like things are lining up for you in a particular way in your life, Scorpio, around March and April. And you're going to be able to kind of witness that and take the meaning that you need to take from it. So you could be almost, I mean, some of you could be studying astrology, for example, at this time, or you could be noticing kind of synchronistic elements of the world around you and drawing your own conclusions from it. And you might even be writing about this with the Queen of Swords. She's also, I could see her kind of like holding a pen. So trust your perspectives around March and April, because I feel like you're going to have a lot to offer. And I feel like people are going to have revelations. Like judgment or karma is a revelation. It's a revelation card. So whatever revelations you are having, Scorpio, other people are going to gain something else from them as well. So maybe share them around that time. I think that would be a time to be a little bit more active. If you have, for example, like a business, or if you are involved in marketing or anything like that, I feel like you could have like a really nice coming together of your strengths as well as your ability to communicate at that time. So there's also the potential that like you could have a revelation about something in your life, like maybe about somebody close to you, or you could have a revelation regarding an aspect of your career. So really there could be bright ideas, or there could just be like truths coming to the surface. So it's going to be a really like mentally active time for you. May and June, we have the Five of Wands and the Page of Wands. So, I feel like a lot of what this is showing me is because I'll show you like how this looks when it's laying down. So that we have the Five of Wands, we have the Page of Wands here who's walking up the trail, and he's kind of waving enthusiastically over at the Nine of Wands in July. So there's this Wandsy period between May and July that is probably going to require a lot of creative exertion on your part, Scorpio. I don't know if you have like a deadline that you're working towards at that time. Maybe it's like a self-imposed deadline. Maybe it's a deadline if you have a publisher and you're going to publish a book or something along those lines. But there's a sense between May and July of like heightened energy. Like, I don't know if you guys have worked with Lenormand, but there's a card in Lenormand that is called the Whip. And the Whip in Lenormand, from my understanding and how I've used it, is that it's kind of an energizing influence, but it also kind of can sting, and that's really the energy that we're seeing. Is like the Page of Wands here in June is showing that you're actually happy with what you're doing. You are looking forward to what you're doing. You like what you're doing. Your heart is definitely in it. He's wearing this sunflower over his heart, so your heart is definitely in what you're doing. But I feel like there's just this almost like agitation or intense creative impulse going on. So you might be kind of, walking around one day, and then you just are struck by this thing that you have to write down, like a poem or something. And then you just like have to write it down before you forget it. That's like one example of the type of energy that this is, where it's almost not even that convenient because you're like, well, if this inspiration is going to come to me, like I wish it would come to me when I can actually take care of it, not when I'm standing in line at the bank, But I feel like something here is showing that there's the potential also for you to feel a little bit, with the Five of Wands and the Nine of Wands, it's like you could potentially feel between May and July that you yourself are more bothered by the idea of competition, or by somebody maybe trying to compete with you or trying to kind of emulate your work in some way. I don't think that this is going to be a huge thing, honestly, because the Five of Wands is really a minor irritation type of card. It's a conflict card, but it's more like a nuisance card than anything. So I feel like May, June, and July, you want to maybe write down in your calendar to have some meditation practices, or maybe even a good book that you like to read that sort of reminds you to keep things in perspective, and just read a couple pages here and there every day. Because I feel like there's the potential for you, because your energy is kind of agitated and you're very creative and you're very inspired on the one hand, but then you also may feel kind of restless or a little bit insomnia on the other hand. So because of that, I want you to think, preemptively about strategies that you can use that reliably sort of help you stay soothed, balanced, calm, and enjoying the creative process, rather than sort of barreling your way through it and kind of feeling a little disoriented by it. But I feel like that can actually be an incredibly productive time, as long as you don't get too distracted by what other people are doing or by any sort of unbalanced feedback that you could be getting. So that's going to be a really active time period. You're going to accomplish a lot, but you're also going to want to take extra steps for your mental health and your self-care, so that you don't get too scattered or too burnt out. But overall, I do feel like you're excited about what you're doing, so it is good. By the time we get to August, we have the silence coming in, which is really, really nice for a Scorpio. With the High Priestess, August is going to represent a change for you. I feel like August is going to give you a feeling of rejuvenation. So maybe some of you are going to be traveling at that time, or scheduling a trip since you're hearing this reading. August could potentially be a time of like rest and reflection as well, and just looking for ways to engage like different parts of yourself, because it's possible that with those three kind of wandsy cards coming before that in the 3 months prior, it's possible that like the active warrior kind of creator part of you is a little burnt out after all of that creation and all of that energy. So you're going to want to maybe tune back into the spiritual side, or to your feeling oriented relationships with life, and really tuning more into like meditation. Maybe even some of you attending like a gathering, like a meditation gathering, or even joining a coven if someone's interested in that. But there's a sense of kind of regrouping and coming back to yourself, coming back to what you really love, and sort of just feeling more spiritually in alignment in August. So if it's like you're in May or June and July, if you're in that time period and you're kind of thinking, oh my God, I just feel burnt out, I feel kind of stressed, I know that there's some things I can do on a daily basis that will help, but I want to know when this is going to be over. Also, definitely by August, okay? So should be like a much nicer time, or a much more calm time. I shouldn't say nicer, because there's good things about all of these periods. It's just you're probably going to be ready for the silence of the High Priestess. You're going to be ready to meditate more. You're going to be ready to take more days off. So in September and October, we have the Eight of Cups and then the Sun. So the Eight of Cups represents sort of walking away from something and then walking towards something else. And she's following the stars. So she's kind of aware, I think, on some level when she's looking at this. This person is aware that what they're doing is part of a constellation of events in the story of their life. And it feels to me, especially coming on the heels of this High Priestess energy in August, that September is going to really bring you a lot of clarity on like what this chapter in your life is all about. And I feel like that's going to give you the courage and the willingness to trust yourself that will allow you to take your life in a new direction. So mark your calendars, because come September, I feel like that's really the turning point for you. Scorpio. Like September, August is like a very inward, deep and thoughtful month for you. September is where you actually start to take what you've discovered about yourself and you start taking your life in a new direction. So maybe you rethink some of your goals, or you take your business in a different direction, or you make some changes to your relationships. But whatever it is, it's like you know how everything is connected. And so you're not afraid to make those changes. And then immediately we have the sun in October, which is so freaking beautiful. And again, October, it's your time of the year. I mean, I always personally feel like as soon as October 1st rolls around, I feel like myself, you know, I feel just more able to express my full self during that portion of the year, October, November, December. So you could be feeling the same way, Scorpio. You could be just feeling really alive, really successful, really positive, really optimistic. And I also want to say too that there's a really fascinating full moon happening in 2020 on Halloween of 2020, when the moon will be exactly conjunct Uranus at 8 degrees of Taurus. So this is the Taurus full moon, of course. There's always a Taurus full moon during Scorpio season, but this year in 2020, the full moon in Taurus lands on Halloween and conjunct Uranus. Like, I think personally that the combination of these energies for you, Scorpio, is going to mean that at this full moon that happens during, you know, when the sun is in your sign, I feel like you are going to be liberated somehow, because Uranus is the planet of liberation, rebellion, and revolution. So, and it's Halloween, which is about, you know, connecting as well with the other side. We wear costumes, so there's like that whole energy of like our persona and who we present ourselves to be, and then, you know, what we connect with spiritually is also more available at that time in the year. So it's like all of these things combine for you to have a really amazing Halloween. I think there's going to be some significant shifts, even just in terms of your own internal belief systems about yourself, where you're going to realize that you actually maybe do want to shake things up, or maybe that you do want to go for an ideal, you know, an ideal in your life. So I feel like that's going to be a really spectacular time, and I don't think it's a coincidence that the sun comes up here, because the sun is always in opposition, or the full moon is always in opposition between the sun and the moon. So this is clearly showing kind of like the sun being in your sign, you're feeling like yourself again, and at the same time, you're feeling kind of maybe a little rebellious, maybe a little like a little bit ready to shock, you know, like you're ready to just be yourself and embrace your weirdness, embrace all the funky things about you. And I think it's going to be really well received as well. I feel like it's something with the sun, it's like your fullness, you know, it's the full expression. And then we have the shadow side, which is interesting to have the sun and then the shadow side. And there's always kind of that element when we see the two of them together, there's like a contrast. And then in December, we have the Ace of Cups. So November, you could feel a little bit like you want to face something that has been bothering you. Some of you could also be feeling, with the shadow side energy next to the sun, you could be feeling like on some level you're connecting more with spiritual insights, or kind of like the shadowy realm of things, which is kind of, you know, you can think about that as a spirit realm, or as, you know, looking at the archetypes that are within your psyche, looking at your own shadow side. So I feel like November is potentially like a month of really like facing some of those things and bringing them out and letting them be sort of observed and witnessed and seen, and also like giving them validation. So I feel that November is going to be a very deep month, a very spiritual month. If you have some fears coming up, I feel like the message here is just to face them head on, because they're really not as bad as you think. And then by December, we have the Ace of Cups. So lots of love. You know, you're ending the year on a high note, a note of loving yourself and others in your life, and feeling basically like your cup is running over, you know, so you're feeling blessed. By the end of 2020, you're looking back and you're going to be thinking, that yes, maybe you had some challenges here and there, but you're going to be feeling like 2020 treated you well. And you're going to be really grateful for what you have and feeling a sense of peace in your heart as you look to 2021. So let's take a look at just a simple kind of focused message for you. This is just some advice. Scorpio, Scorpio, Scorpio. Wisdom. That is so gorgeous. So you have wolf and wisdom. And I feel like, yeah, these energies just kind of speak for themselves, you know? It is going to be about the wisdom of, like, knowing what you're good at and knowing what you can change, you know, almost like the serenity prayer, like knowing what you can change and what you can't change. And when you fully accept those things and you take action on what you can change and you accept the things that you can't, that is when wisdom happens. You know, that's when you stop wasting energy trying to convert, you know, toxic people into nice people, and you just remove yourself from the situation. Or that's when you are able to try something new when what you have been doing hasn't been working. It's like magic happens when you're flexible, I think, with life, and when you bear witness to the details and the actions and the behaviors that you're seeing from other people and from society as a whole. When you are paying attention, you don't miss a fucking thing, Scorpio. You catch everything. And so I feel like for you, it's about using the insights that you're getting, because you're seeing everything, like we were seeing with the wolf and like the eyes. It's like you see what's going on. Trust that vision that you have. Trust what you're seeing. Trust what you're hearing. Trust what your inner voice is telling you about, like, people that you're working with or situations that are coming up in your life, because you are picking up on things, and you're picking up on things that not everybody is going to pick up on. And that means that you can use your insight as a tool to bring you more prosperity, more peace, better relationships, exalting the ability to just perceive. I mean, that's like the whole trick of it, I think, is just paying attention. And a Scorpio is really good at that, paying attention. But you're going to have to actually act on what you get while you're paying attention. And that's the wisdom. The wisdom is that kind of thick tree here. You know, it's like being so rooted to yourself and so trusting of what you are getting and how you are interpreting reality that that you're not going to be thrown off. You know, you're not going to be thrown off by what other people are saying is going to happen, or negative predictions from other people. Even readers like, you know, me on YouTube, it's like you always want to trust yourself above what anybody else says. Even if it resonates to you, it's resonating to you because you are checking in with yourself and you're creating that experience within yourself, and you're aware of it because of yourself. So it's not like anybody else is really doing it for you. It's like you're always in control. So that's what I'm getting with this wisdom energy, is like, I just feel a lot of maturity from you, Scorpio. I feel like you're able to step into a more of a leadership role in your life, in part because you're doing this work. So you should be really proud of yourself, and I hope that you have an amazing year in 2020. It looks like it's going to be very transformative, and I hope that this reading in some small way gives you some extra trust and faith as you move forward. And if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I also would love to see a little scorpion emoji in the comments if you listened all the way to the end, because I know these readings can be so long, but my goal is really to deliver you 360-degree insights into every possible thing that I can get for you for the year, because readings. I want to empower you. I want you to feel like no challenge is insurmountable, and no challenge is one that you can't overcome and feel joyful while doing it. That's really the message that I want you to get from my work. And so I hope that this reading gave you a little piece of that somewhere, somehow. If you'd like to have me look into your personal energies, I will put the link below to my shop. If you'd like to donate to support my time and effort that I put into these readings, I will put a donate link below. Even $1 is insanely awesome and so helpful. So please consider doing that if you have benefited from this reading or other readings earlier this year. I'm sending you so much love, Scorpio. Mwah! I love you, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.